You were not born to blend in. You were born to build, to rise, to become. And yet, somewhere along the way, the fire dimmed. The world trained you to shrink, to think small, move slow, and make peace with mediocrity. But I'm here to tell you, enough. Enough with playing the background in your own life. Enough watching the clock while your dreams gather dust. Enough standing at the edge of your potential, afraid to jump. Because the truth is, this life is not a rehearsal. You don't get a second showing. There is no someday. There is only now. Think bigger, move faster, burn the excuses. You see, the greatest lie you've ever been told is that there's time. Time to delay, time to hesitate, time to wait until you feel ready. But greatness doesn't wait for permission. It moves, it acts, it decides. And if you want to rewrite your future, you must first rewrite your mind. Every legend you've ever studied, Carnegie, Ford, Rockefeller, Edison, Disney, they weren't born into brilliance. They built it, brick by brick, thought by thought. They trained their minds to see opportunity in failure, advantage in adversity, and wealth in the invisible realm of vision. When the world said, impossible, they said, watch me. When the critics laughed, they listened to their faith. They knew the mind is the workshop of reality, and whatever you feed it multiplies. You think doubt is just a thought? It's a disease. It spreads, it infects, it paralyzes. But belief? Belief is fire, and once it starts burning, it clears every obstacle in its path. That's why you must guard your mind like a fortress. Feed it daily. Challenge it constantly. Build beliefs that serve your mission, not ones that cradle your fear. Clarity is the starting line of every transformation. You cannot build what you cannot see. You cannot chase what you have not defined. Yet most people wander through life with a fogged lens, chasing what others want, living by default, reacting instead of creating. But clarity is power. It slices through distraction like a blade. It gives your time meaning and your steps momentum. It eliminates the noise and amplifies the truth. So ask yourself, what do you really want? Not what you think is possible, not what others expect, but what calls to your soul in the quiet hours of the night. That's your compass. That's your mission. Everything else is noise. And once you have clarity, you must protect it with discipline, because vision without discipline is just a hallucination. Discipline is not punishment. It's power. It is choosing growth over comfort every time. It is rising when others rest. It is showing up when motivation vanishes. It is mastering the mind when it screams for ease. Discipline is the gatekeeper of your future. And every morning you stand at the gate. The question is, will you walk through it, or will you make another excuse? Let me tell you something brutal but true. Excuses are elegant lies we tell ourselves to justify staying small. And the most dangerous ones sound like reason. I'm tired. I'm too late. I don't know how. I'll start Monday. No, you start now. Because waiting is a disease that kills more dreams than failure ever will. No empire was built by waiting. No legend was born from comfort. And no life ever changed until the person living it finally stood up and said, I refuse to waste another minute. Do you understand what's at stake here? Your future isn't just waiting. It's watching. It's begging you to wake up, to act, to commit. Because the clock is not slowing down for you. The world is not going to pause until you feel ready. And your dream? It's dying in proportion to your delay. Now is the moment where average dies, and ambition takes the throne. Now is when the excuses burn, and your obsession with progress begins, because movement creates momentum, not perfection, not preparation, just forward motion, one step, then another, and another. Edison didn't wait until he had all the answers. He moved, he failed, he refined, he persisted over 10,000 times. And every so-called failure brought him closer to the light. Literally, he wasn't lucky, he wasn't chosen. He was relentless, and that is what separates the world class from the world watching. Relentless pursuit. You say you want success, but do you show up for it every day like it's oxygen? Do you treat your goals like life or death, or just as something nice to have when the stars align? Because here's the truth no one tells you. Success is war. It is a battle against comfort, against your old self, against distractions dressed as entertainment. And if you are not willing to go to war for your vision, you are not serious about your life. You've been taught to seek balance, but balance does not build empires. Obsession does. Focus does. Sacrifice does. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters, again and again and again. When it's boring, when it's hard, when no one is clapping. That's the forge. That's where winners are made, in the quiet repetitions that no one sees while the world is asleep. And let me tell you this, there's nothing more dangerous than a human being with clarity of purpose and the discipline to back it up. That kind of person bends reality. They don't ask for opportunities, they create them. They don't knock on doors, they build doors. They don't hope for change, they embody it. They move fast because the time is their most precious currency. They think big because small goals insult their soul. And they burn every excuse because excuses are the enemies of destiny. So ask yourself, what do you need to let go of in order to become who you are meant to be? The comfort, the opinions of others, the fear of failure, the addiction to someday. Because whatever you are not willing to burn will burn you. There's a version of you that exists beyond hesitation, beyond fear, beyond the limits that were handed to you by a society addicted to average. That version of you is not a fantasy, it's a decision to stop living as a reaction and start living by design. You were not created to exist in neutral, to live half awake, to chase goals you don't believe in, for approval you don't need, in a life you didn't choose. But you can reclaim it, every bit of it, the second you decide that excuses are no longer welcome at the table of your potential. The second you decide to go all in. No more dipping your toes in greatness. No more playing tug of war with your old identity. The version of you that hesitates, procrastinates, second guesses, burn it. Because that version was built for survival, not success. It was trained to keep you small, to keep you safe, to keep you stuck. But you're not here to survive. You're here to build, to create, to dominate. And domination doesn't come from wanting more. It comes from becoming more, from doing the hard things with joy, from walking into resistance with purpose, and from trusting that the path is built as you walk it. You want the formula? Here it is. Burn the excuses. Feed the vision. Marry the discipline. Repeat. It's not sexy. It's not always inspiring, but it's the truth. And the truth is the only thing that will set you free. Ask the builders of history. Ask Lincoln, who failed in business, lost multiple elections, and battled depression so dark it nearly swallowed him, until he became one of the greatest leaders the world has ever known. Ask Henry Ford, who was told he was insane for believing in a motor vehicle for the masses, who was ridiculed, sued, betrayed, until he became one of the greatest leaders the world has ever known. Ask Henry Ford, who was told he was insane for believing in a motor vehicle for the masses, who was ridiculed, sued, betrayed, until he revolutionized industry and time itself. Ask Walt Disney, who was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination, who faced bankruptcy, rejection, doubt, and still imagined worlds no one else could see. What do these giants have in common? Not talent, not luck, not connections, vision, belief, grit, and a relentless refusal to be defined by their limitations. They weren't afraid to think too big. They were terrified of dying too small. And that's what I need you to understand today. Playing small is not humble. It's theft. You rob the world when you hold back your gifts. You rob your family when you live beneath your potential. And you rob yourself every time you let fear vote on your future. So here's the question. Will you continue to make excuses for why you're not there yet? Or will you finally become the reason you get there? Because one day, this life will flash before your eyes, and you will either smile with pride or flinch with regret. And you don't get to choose if that moment comes. You only get to choose what it looks like. This isn't just about motivation. This is about liberation. Freedom from your old patterns. Freedom from delay. Freedom from the invisible chains that kept your future locked behind tomorrow. Because here's the truth. Most people don't fail because they lack opportunity. They fail because they lack urgency. They think they have time. But every excuse you make, every dream you defer, is a piece of your soul you'll never get back. You were not made to move slow. You were made to move with force, with velocity, with fire in your bones and purpose in your step. Move like your life depends on it, because it does. Move like you're being chased by the ghost of the person you could have been, because you are. And every day you wait, it catches up. You've got this idea in your head that thinking bigger is dangerous, that it's risky. But let me ask you, what's the real risk? Settling for a life you never wanted? Living on autopilot? Waiting for a breakthrough that never comes because you never created one? No. The real risk is staying in the same place another year. The real risk is being alive but not truly living. The real risk is waking up 10 years from now with success-shaped scars, the kind that come from knowing you could have had it all, but you let excuses run your life. Stop romanticizing rock bottom. Stop glamorizing struggle without direction. You are not here to survive storms forever. You are here to learn to build empires in the rain. That's what real winners do. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They make the moment perfect through action. They build while the world sleeps. They train when no one's watching. They sacrifice things the average person will never understand because they see something bigger.